Namaskaram to all viewers of Jyotirmarg. Dear viewers, when the Pandavas left for Indraprastha, Duryodhana, Karna and Shaguni approached Dhritarashtra and spoke to him like this. O king, whatever you have done now is a gross mistake. The Pandavas will never forgive us for what we have done to them today. Especially, they will never forget and forgive us for disgracing and insulting Panchali. You have heard how that beam has sworn revenge on us. When he comes swinging his huge mace, who will be there to stop him or who will be able to escape his wrath? And when Dhananjaya will invade us with his Gandhiva, who in all these three worlds will be there to win over him? Listening to the twang of his bowstring only, our soldiers will run away. And when all the five of them come together, there will be nothing left of the Kuru race anymore. So our only way out is to call them for another game of dice. That foolish king Yudhishtira will accept it, saying that it is his Kshatriya dharma. And like what happened today, Uncle Shaguni with his expertise will win over him without doubt. This time, the stake will be for the losers to go for a 12 years long life in forest, followed by 1 year living in disguise, after which they can return and take back their kingdom. If found out and identified during the last 1 year, it will be another 12 years in forest, followed by 1 year in disguise. And by the time they come back after 13 years, we will use their wealth and make ourselves much more stronger and also make many allies, and thus we will be able to destroy them. Like this, Duryodhana spoke at length to make his father agree to his plans, whereupon Dhritarashtra said, By this time, the Pandavas must be far off from Hastinapur. No matter, send fast messengers to bring them back for another game of dice. Listening to the words of Dhritarashtra, Drona, Somadatta, Balhiga, Gaudama, Vidura, Ashwatthama, Yuyulsu, Bhurishrava, Bhishma, Vikarna, and many others advised Dhritarashtra not to do like that. They all unanimously told him that a great danger had just been warded off, at least for the time being. Do not do the same mistake again, they said. But that blind king had been totally possessed by the feelings of greed and blind love for his own sons. And more than his love for his own sons, he hated the Pandavas for their success and popularity. On being informed about her husband's decision to bring back the Pandavas for another game of dice, Gandhari rushed to her husband and said like this, O great king, do you remember the ill omens which we had seen and heard when Duryodhana was born? And do you remember what the learned Brahmins, other scholars and Vidura had told us? When Duryodhana himself howled like a jackal, they advised us to abandon him, to destroy him, to kill him. They said that he has taken birth to destroy our race. O king, you should not support our sons who have deviated from the path of dharma. They are all selfish, greedy, wicked, and do not reflect any qualities represented by the great kings and ancestors of this renowned race. And Duryodhana is the one who is leading them all in the path of self-destruction. Otherwise, who will ever want to enrage the Pandavas, who are renowned and respected in all three worlds for their adherence to dharma and for their might and valor? Our 100 sons, all joined together also, will not be a match for even one of the Pandava brothers. And over and above everything else, Vasudeva Krishna is on their side. By cheating and insulting the Pandavas, we are also incurring the wrath of Vasudeva Krishna and the mighty Panchala king Drupada. Drupada's son Drishtadimna was born out of the flames of the fire, and Draupadi also took birth along with him. Just like the Pandavas, they both also have divine origin. Do not play with fire and divinity. It will lead to self-destruction. So, as your wife who is destined to share your good and bad times, I am asking you to denounce this enemy of our race. Before also, I had asked you to abandon him. But now, we may not have the time for another time. O king, do not allow your sons to influence your wisdom and your decisions. Stay in control. Everyone in this assembly, including myself, have given you this good advice, not to bring the Pandavas back for another game of dice. I pray to God that now your wisdom will enable you to take the right decision. But in spite of all the efforts and advices of his well-wishers, Dhritarashtra said like this: "Whatever is there in our destiny, for sure it will happen like that only. I am not ready to change my decision now. Let the Pandavas be brought back, and let there be another game of dice." Thereupon, Duryodhana's charioteer Pratikami was sent to convey the message to the Pandavas. When Pratikami caught up with the Pandavas and conveyed that message, Yudhishtira said like this: "God and destiny are supreme. No one can escape from the good and bad times that will befall us. This invitation of Dhritarashtra for another round of dice will bring in suffering and destruction. But I cannot disobey him. Everyone knows that there are no golden deers. Still, Sri Ram went after that golden deer." Saying like that, Yudhishtira, along with all others, returned to Hastinapur. Even though he knew about Shaguni's deceit in dice, and also that he will not be able to win over Shaguni, bound by his dharma and destiny, Yudhishtira went back and sat ready to play the game of dice. Thereupon, Shaguni explained the conditions of the game like this: "The stake for both parties will be all their wealth, including their kingdom. Along with that, the loser and his men will live for 12 years in the forest, and thereafter 1 year in disguise. On successful completion, they can get back their wealth and kingdom. If identified during the 13th year, then they will have to live another 12 years in forest, followed by 1 year in disguise." On receiving Yudhishthira's consent, Shaguni started the game and threw the dice in front of him. Then he looked around, laughing and shouting, and said, "I have won, I have won." So it was all over. Yudhishthira, who was adhering to the Kshatriya dharma, lost everything in a few seconds. Thereafter, in a short while, the Pandavas changed their royal robes, and wearing deer skin, they all stood ready to go on their 12 years long life in the forest. When the Pandavas were waiting like that, Dushasan started insulting them and Draupadi and even her father Drupada for giving her in marriage to these dwellers of the forest. Dushasan said, "Today starts the absolute sovereignty of King Duryodhana, and the Pandavas have been vanquished and have been thrown into endless sufferings and everlasting hell. They are just like grains without kernel. They were kings but not kings anymore. They are dressed like forest dwellers, but they are not inhabitants of the forest. So to say, neither man or woman, they are eunuchs right now." And what a fool that Drupada was to give his daughter in marriage to these eunuchs, that also not just one, but to 5 eunuchs. Then addressing Draupadi, he described the Pandavas with several insulting words and comparisons and told her that she doesn't really need to accompany these men who are no better than beggars. Instead, she can marry any one of them who are present there in that great assembly and live happily with all comforts, he said. Then a very angry Bhim approached him like a Himalayan lion and roared at him and said that for piercing their hearts with his insulting words, in a battlefield, Bhim will break open his breast and pull out his heart, and told him to just wait for that day. Knowing that right now the Pandavas cannot do anything against him, Dushasan kept on repeating the word "go," meaning cow. Meanwhile, he danced around the Pandavas with very sarcastic moves, actions, and distorted facial expressions. Repeating the word "go" as if he were singing a song, indirectly, Dushasan meant to convey that the mighty Pandavas, now defeated and stripped of all their wealth and kingdom, are like the soft and gentle cows. Once again, Bhim's words reverberated in that assembly. "You wretch, all who are present here know that you have won through foul play and deceit. Still you celebrate your victory?" Remember this, in a great war, I shall rip open your chest and drink your blood. If I don't do this, I shall not attain any of those sacred worlds which were attained by my ancestors. Then, while the Pandavas were walking out of the assembly hall, Duryodhana, in his great ecstasy and ahankar, sarcastically imitated Bhim's lion-like strides. Thereupon, turning towards him, Bhim continued with his words, thundering over that assembly hall and the palace itself once again. This doesn't end here. I shall give my reply to your insults on the day when I shall kill you along with your men, taking sufficient time to remind you of each insult you have showered on all of us and Draupadi on this day. You wicked Duryodhana, in the battlefield I shall ground you with my mace, and then I will stamp your head and body against this earth with my foot. Bhim then continued like this. Karna will be slayed by Arjun, and this cheat and fraud by name Shaguni will die at the hands of Sahadeva. Thereupon Arjun said, I promise to fulfill my elder brother Bhim's words. Along with all his followers, I shall slay this selfish, wicked and jealous Karna, who is rude and harsh, with his words filled with insults and abuses. The mountains of Himalaya may move away, the sun may lose its brightness, and the moon may get devoid of moonlight. But at the end of the 13th year, if our kingdom is not returned to us in a respectful manner, then these words of mine and my elder brother Bhim will come true for sure. Thereupon Sahadeva, hissing like a king cobra, spoke to Shaguni like this. You who are a disgrace to your ancestors and the renowned kings of Gandhara, this is not the end of the game for you. Those whom you believe has failed have not yet failed. The next game will not be played with the dice which you are manipulating in the palm of your hands. Instead, there will be arrows which will hit you on all your vital points, and swords which will cut off those hands of yours. Yes, those hands with which you have cheated and won a kingdom. And during that process, I shall remind you of each and every deceitful game which you have played today. Thereupon, Nakula, that most handsome and well-built Pandava prince, said, And I shall slay those who are not slayed by my brothers, and clear this earth of all the wicked members of this cursed race of Dhartarashtras. For what they have done to the daughter of Yajnasena, I shall ensure that not even a single one of them is left behind in this mortal world. Thereafter, Yudhishtira bid farewell to the elders, but they all sat with their heads bent down and didn't dare to face Yudhishtira. Immersed in the ocean of shame and embarrassment, they did not utter a word in reply to Yudhishtira. Meanwhile, Vidura came forward and addressed Yudhishtira like this. Your mother Kunti doesn't need to accompany you in this 12 years long life in the forest. In my house, she will be safe and will be taken care of with all due respects and comforts befitting her status. The Pandavas agreed to this with their mind and heart filled with thanks and gratitude. Thereafter Vidura said, O Yudhishtira, one who has been vanquished through deceit is not really defeated. Time and destiny have planned everything. It will be a matter of time for time to equate everything. In war, you are all invincible. Draupadi is well behaved, caring and obedient. You all are very much attached to each other. Even an enemy who is equal to Indra will not be a match for you. May you all be blessed with the victory of Indra, with the control of wrath of Yama, with the charity of Kubera, with the self-control of Varuna, with the gladdening power of the moon, with the sustaining power of water, with the patience of the earth, with the energy and radiance of the sun, with the might and strength of Vayu, and with the good properties of all the elements. May you all be blessed with good health. No one can speak even a word against you, as you have not deviated from your karma or dharma. O son of Kunti, you have my permission and blessings to leave now. I hope to see you back crowned with success. Thereafter, Draupadi met Kunti, fell on her feet and sought her blessings. Crying aloud with uncontrollable pain and grief, Kunti embraced Draupadi. When they both cried, all other females who were present there also cried with them. Even while she was crying aloud, Kunti spoke to her like this, with words broken and lacking clarity. "Oh, my dear one, do not grieve like this. There is nothing for me to teach you or tell you, as you are well conversant in all your duties. I have full trust and confidence in you. Those Kauravas are lucky because you didn't burn them in the fire of your wrath. Your patience and dharma are over and above everything else. With my prayers and blessings, you will live in the forest without difficulties. Take special care of my youngest child Sahadev. Make sure that he doesn't break down during this life of hardships." Wiping her tears, Draupadi replied that she will do like that, then turned and walked back to her husband's. She was still wearing a single attire, her long and beautiful tresses of hair, holding which Dushasan had pulled and dragged her around, was still not tied. In fact, after that incident, she never tied her hair during the next 13 years. When Draupadi walked back, crying and wearing a single cloth which was blood-stained, with her long hair spread on all directions, Kunti couldn't control anymore. Crying aloud, she followed her daughter-in-law and then saw her sons standing there with all their royal robes and crowns removed. Now they were wearing deer skin and their heads were bent down in shame, and they were surrounded by their enemies who were rejoicing and celebrating. Kunti ran forward and embraced them all, and her feelings came down as tears. Then she spoke to them weeping, her throat choked, and her words were broken. Kunti said that they were all virtuous and adhering to the path of dharma, and still why are they facing this fate? Had she known that this life in the forest was in store for them, she would not have brought them to Hastinapur from the mountains of Shadashringa. She pleaded her dearest son Sahadeva to stay with her. Even though he was Madri's son, being the youngest, he was the one whom Kunti had brought up with maximum care and affection. After a while, the Pandavas consoled their mother, who was lost in the ocean of grief and sorrow, and then started walking out of the palace walls and started their journey, which will take them into the dense forest. And Vidura in turn led Kunti to his home, all the while consoling her and trying his best to bring her mindset back into normal. Dear viewers, here ends this chapter of our summarized version of Rishi Vedvyasa's timeless epic Mahabharata. Harihi Om.